Hey, it's Fitz, and if you don't know who I am, here's a quick bio. I'm a veteran sports journalist who writes, does TV, radio, daily YouTube videos, and I'm a longtime podcaster. Also, I have metastatic stage 4 prostate cancer that came out of remission in 2023. During the pandemic, my doctors advised me to stay at home, and the Life of Fitz podcast was born. 5 years later, I'm back in my cancer battle and continuing this podcast with season 6. As I call the many people I've met through my 35 years in sports journalism, and those who are involved in my cancer journey. Plus, we'll add in a few friends we've met along the way who are facing their own obstacles in life. Welcome to my life and the Life of Fitz podcast. Presented by the great people at Blueville Nursery in Manhattan. One of the great things about this job, about my career being in sports journalism, is some of the remarkable people you get to meet, and you get to meet them before you know they're remarkable. That so many of us are on our journey. And when I started this, I was a much younger man. It was 1998 when we started the company, 95 when I got into this industry. That's a pretty big window. But Erick Harper was done playing football at Kansas State by the time I got into this. So I knew Harp as a guy who was now in athletic administration who had been a football player. And to think about where he was in 2003 when he finally departed Manhattan and headed to other places, to where he is now, is one of the beauties of life. We all go on our journeys. His journey went to Tucson and now Vegas, where he is the athletics director at the University of Nevada at Las Vegas. Yep, former Kansas State safety, Erick Harper is the boss at UNLV in terms of sports. He's done a heck of a job, too. He's in his 4th year. He's had some football success, as you know. Barry Odom got him going again. Now he's got Dan Mullen coming in. It's going to be very interesting. But Harp's one of the good guys. He always has been. And he's also one of the guys that was part of that foundation. If you're a K-Stater, you know what that is. The players that were here playing for Stan Parrish when Bill Snyder arrived in December of '88 and started the process, the long, grueling process of turning K-State football, turning it into something it had never been, a consistent winner. It was the most losing football program in the history of the game. What he did was miraculous. But as he said many times, none of that would have happened without the way the guys who comprise the foundation, maybe 50 guys total, I don't know, what they did to put in the work. And boy, they put in some work, made everything now possible. And everything that they were a part of made everything that followed for them possible. It's a pretty cool way to be able to look back through your life and realize what decisions made differences for you and those around you. And I'm glad that Erick Harper is our guest this week on Life of Fitz. So now let's go out to Las Vegas, one of my favorite places in the world, and bring in Erick Harper. And now I'm not in Vegas, but my heart always is. And that is where Erick Harper, a member of the Kansas State Football Foundation and now the athletics director at UNLV, exists. He and his magical spinning shoe join us on the Life of Fitz. Brother, how you been, man? I think probably the last time we saw each other was in the early 2000s at So Long Shalom.
Very well could have been. I was probably having a resist temptation with Buffalo and a couple of cocktails. I'm certain of that. Yep. But yeah, it's great to see you again, Fitz, man. It's been a minute. I really enjoyed my time at Kansas State, of course.
There's a lot to go back in history with, but let's just start here. What was it about Arizona? Because you went to Arizona first, correct?
Yes.
What was it about that move from Manhattan to Arizona? Now, you're from Texas originally, right?
Yeah, originally from Texas, yes. A small town called Denison, Texas. Well, it's funny. I was, obviously working at played there, worked there. I was told by one of my mentors to be to be diverse in your skill set and be diverse in your thoughts if you're going to stay in this profession. So I was, at the time, I'd spent 8 years in compliance, and that may have been the most thankless job of any jobs I've ever had in my life, but really enjoyed understanding and learning the NCAA rules at that particular level, as well as conference structure, because I think that helps me today in what I do as an athletic director. But going to Arizona, it was really, I probably hit my ceiling at Kansas State. And then to go work with Mike Stoops down at Arizona as the director of football operations. And one of the things I'd always told myself, if I'm going to be an athletic director, what better way to understand head coaches than to be a director of operations in football or basketball? Because there's nothing a coach can say to me that I probably will not have heard as a director of football operations. So I did that with Mike and I told Mike I'd do it for 8 to 10 years. We got 8. We got 8 out of it. And then I ended up here at UNLV with the same athletic director that hired us at Arizona. He ended up coming over to UNLV and he hired me here. So basically at the end of the day, I was done with compliance. I hit my ceiling. And I wanted to do some football operations and actually leaned on Sean Snyder quite a bit and Matt McMillan to understand what it meant to be a football operations person.
And you got into fundraising.
Yes.
You strike me as one of those rare athletic administrator who has kind of the golden triangle. You've worked with the sport, development, and compliance. That's kind of the 3-prong approach, maybe marketing, but yeah.
Well, I'll take you back to the very beginning, Fitz. When I the inaugural Kansas State Hall of Fame induction ceremony, I was there at Kansas State finishing up my degree and working that particular event as an usher. And I happened to sit at a table with Chris Peterson, actually was in charge of development at Kansas State at the time. And Chris asked me what I was going to do when I graduated. I said, I don't know, Chris. I'm trying to see if I can make it in pro ball right now. I've got a couple of workouts coming up. He says, well, if nothing happens, come see me in October. And it was October. And he says, well, figure out an internship for you. And I started as an intern at Kansas State for about 2 years. And then Matt McMillan, Chris moved on to University of Nebraska, and then Matt McMillan hired me as a assistant director of marketing and promotions with a little bit of fundraising, running the Golden Cat Club. And so I did marketing, promotions, and fundraising at Kansas State all at the same time. And back then, everything was under the same umbrella. But I did that, and then I was kind of a Learfield of IMG Learfield of Kansas State before they actually got on the campuses. So I did the corporate sponsorship sales, didn't have to do any TV stuff, but did the corporate sponsorship sales, radio buys, TV buys, sponsorships on those and so forth. And then, so I just stayed fundraising the entire time. Even at Arizona, I did some fundraising for football specifically during my time there. So I wanted to keep my foot and my hand associated with fundraising throughout my career. And then that stretch of marketing and then handling trade outs and those particular things at Kansas State really helped me to be a little bit more well-rounded.
And when did you go to UNLV?
I've been at UNLV since October 1 of 2012.
Wow.
And I started as a associate athletic director for development, working for Jim Livengood, who I still talk to today. And then I got promoted to senior associate AD, and up until August of 21 when I became the interim athletic director. And then it's hard to say permanent, but in January of 22, so I'm going to use the term interim was removed because there's no such thing as permanent in this industry, but other than permanent chaos in this industry. And then I've been sitting in the seat now. I'm in my 4th year, getting ready to go into my 5th on January 1st of 26.
That's incredible. I feel like you were just hired a year ago. It's flown by.
It's flown by, and I've been very, very fortunate. I have a great team that supports me. and we've got some fantastic coaches, and I've been able to hire some really good guys and ladies to run our different departments, different sports, and then also on the administrative side, I've got some really good people that support me on a day-to-day basis.
That's awesome. Awesome. You, in your short time as an AD, how much has the industry changed? It's just unbelievable. I can't keep up.
It's every day, Fitz. It's an interesting. I took over, and right about the time I took over, the Alston academic, the Alston money started to flow. There was discussion of NIL, transfer portal, but conference realignment. All of those particular things hitting at the exact same time has been challenging. Which you talk about the shoe behind me. Well, that's kind of how my head is sometimes as an exorcist. It's constantly spinning. You never know what's going to come, so you got to have eyes everywhere. But it's an industry that I think what we're going through right now is probably something that should have been done 10, 15, 20 years ago, and we probably wouldn't be in the chaos that we're in right now. But I think this industry will right size, like all industries does. When you have chaos, there is a point in time where you get to right size what's going on, and I think that'll come. Is it 3 years, 5 years, 7 years? I don't know, but I think as more of the trial and error comes of what we're going through right now with the transfer portal, conference realignment, revenue distribution, or revenue share, I should say, for a better term, I think we'll get to a space where we flow really, really good. And also, me, Fitz, from my days at Kansas State, I'm going to be a proponent for the student athlete.
Yep.
Whatever I can do to help that student athlete grow. And my job is more to help them grow off the field and off the court and out of the water and off the course. That's where my focus is. And anything that I can help them in that particular space, because somebody did it for me. Chris Peterson did it for me. Steve Miller did it for me. Matt McMillan did it for me. Bill Snyder did it for me. Bob Stoops did it for me. Those guys helped me grow off of the field more so than on the field. And I can't thank those guys enough for the support they gave me. And I'm trying to give that back to our student athletes.
That's not a bad list you just made. It's a pretty impressive list.
Pretty good list there. Yep. I'm very fortunate to be engaged with all of those guys over my time.
Most of my study of the House settlement's been about the impact on the Big 12 power level teams. What is there any for UNLV and schools of that in that non-power designation?
Yeah, it's just at a smaller level, quite honestly. They're going to be, the bigger schools are going to be at 20.5, and some of us at the G5 level are going to be, 5 and below. And because we still have our day-to-day, operational expenses that we have to work with, and the reliance on building revenue different ways. There's different revenue streams that we've got to work with. I just happen to be in a great city that's always being innovative, always being creative, and you kind of take a page out of the resort corridors book. And so how do we maximize what we have, because they're trying to be better than the next property and the next property, and even when the properties are under the same umbrella, one's trying to be better than the other, so that they can maximize their revenues. And I think that's where we at the G5 level, we have to. There's a different level of maximizing our revenues that we self generate. In the bigger conferences, they're getting the bigger media checks, obviously from ESPN and Fox and CBS and all the different media partners. We've got to do more from a fundraising perspective and find different and new streams of revenue, which is something. As a matter of fact, I've got a meeting today at 3:30 with my development team to see, what going into next fiscal year, what's out there, or what can we do that makes sense at UNLV that may not make sense at Kansas State. But I've used things I learned at Kansas State to make sense here. And that's that every single one of our donors is important. I don't care if they're a $100,000 donor or a $100 donor. They are important, because you never know when that $100 donor is going to be $1 million donor. because of something that happens within what they do in their profession, or they go down here on the blackjack table and they hit them for $10 million. So, you gotta, unfortunately, we have to think in that mindset, or I should say, fortunately, we can think in that mindset that we're going to have a donor that may go down and make a boatload of money gambling and on cards and dice and so forth. And we have to think about that.
Winning the lottery is my retirement plan. And it's not a very good plan, particularly when I don't play the lottery. It really cuts down your chances, but not that much.
Hey, Fitz, I haven't had, we don't have it in the state of Nevada,
which is weird,
but they do in California. So my in-laws do, they do partake from time to time.
Of all the gambling in Las Vegas, the lottery's out.
Lottery is out.
Nevada. That's funny. Yeah. That's funny. Fundraising, though, it looks like you really stirred it up. This has been, with your background in it, you've gotten aggressive with fundraising for the UNLV department, haven't you?
Yeah, and you have to, because we're in a very competitive city, a very strong entertainment driven. It's driven by entertainment, and at one point in time, and I don't have the exact year, but nationally in the United States, at one point in time, there was 317, I think, $1 billion that were given philanthropically throughout the U.S. Now you can take the Bill Gates, the Steve Jobs, and pull them to the side for a second, but think about, there's 1 million organizations trying to get those billions of dollars. And so the competitive nature of that is a mindset that we have, in the sense that we have to steward better than the next person. We have to cultivate better than the next person. And being in an entertainment industry as we are in college athletics, we have the opportunity to invite you to games, our particular games in essence. And in the last 2 years, we've been really good in football. But I also have in this building that I oversee with Mike Newcomb, my deputy AD for facilities and game operations, we have NBA Summer League. So we can bring our donors to NBA Summer League. We have the National Finals Rodeo. We can bring our donors to the National Finals Rodeo and put them in a suite. So we have some things here on this campus and in this city that most don't have.
Right.
And with that, we've just got to be able to be more creative with what we do. And also you have to, in every city for that matter. But when it comes to fundraising and when it comes to development, you have to do exactly what you say you're going to do with the monies that you're generating, and be great stewards of that. And when somebody asks you the question of, what did my money go to? Well, you went and your money helped this young lady or this young man that hadn't been up for breakfast in 5 years because they don't know how to cook. They didn't have the financial resources to get up and have breakfast 5 days a week. We can do that. That's where your money has gone. And when we have the #1 hotel school and hospitality in the world at the Harrah Hotel College of Hospitality here on UNLV's campus, and we utilize them to do the meals at our training table. So the #1 hotel college in the country is taking care of the meals for our student athletes during training table.
That's amazing. That's a huge asset to have.
Yeah. And it also saves us money because their price point is going to be much different than one of your corporate people out there that has to satisfy their stockholders and their board of directors. We provide, that opportunity also provides our hotel college with some practical learning for some of their students and their chefs. It provides them for practical learning on working with events.
That is really awesome. Did you ever think you'd end up in Las Vegas for your career? Maybe as a dancer.
Absolutely, 100% no. It was very interesting. I think I moved out here I think I had the tender age of, I'm 57 now. I've been out 13 years, tender age of 44. And my mother said, "What are you going to do?" She used some other choice words. What are you going to do moving to Las Vegas? I say, "Hey, Mom, they have churches out here. They have libraries. They have parks. It's not just all about the Las Vegas Strip. There's a lot more to Las Vegas." And she's like, all right. So no, I never thought it. And I never knew that this city is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a fabulous city with a lot of sports and entertainment, and sports has become more of an entertainment than it is sports now.
Yeah. My friend Kelly Stewart, who lived there for a long time, said, if you don't go down to the Strip, you're just in a really pleasant city. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. 100%.
I mean, there's a whole city lifestyle. People do different things than going to the Strip, but you have access to those concerts, which is really cool.
Yeah. And now with the resident concerts, it's even better.
Oh, yeah.
Because now, they're going to be here for 25 appearances. I don't have to get to the first one.
Yeah.
I can find one somewhere in between 1 and 25, which my wife and I have over the years that I've been here. And it's heck, I'm sad that I miss Kenny Chesney in his residency here, but he'll be back. But Kenny Chesney also used our Fertitta football complex to work out.
Wow.
He has a relationship with our head football coach, and so he used our facility to work out, which is pretty cool. What not very many people can say Kenny Chesney's worked out in their facility and done concerts, so it's in the same city, right? So it's a pretty unique situation that we're in.
I wonder if the football players thought it was Sean Payton, the coach.
That's a good question. I'm gonna ask Coach if any of them thought
They look so much alike.
Absolutely. Heck, I've had an opportunity to meet George Strait since I've been out in Las Vegas, and you'll like this one. I met Michael Bivens came to one of our basketball games, and Bell Biv DeVoe, he was, and obviously new addition, but he was at one of our basketball games a couple years ago doing one of his residencies. He popped over for a game. He knows one of our donors, season ticket holders, and he popped over to the game. Thurman Thomas came to one of our games. And remember, I put Thurman Thomas out in 1987. I knocked him out of the game when we played Okie State. And I said, you may not remember me, but I sent you to the showers early in that game in Manhattan. And he started laughing. But it's pretty cool to meet some of the people that you see here in this city that come to our games and very unique situations that we have here in this city.
That's so cool. Yeah, I plan on trying to get to Chesney next summer. I was upset I couldn't get there, but we'll see. I refuse to go to his one at Arrowhead when he's in there touring. I don't know, middle of August at Arrowhead on the outside just doesn't appeal to me. No,
it does not.
No. Last year when I was in town in Vegas for Big 12 Media Days, because we had that at Allegiant and stayed at the Bellagio, we rode a bus. I think it was 120 that week.
Yeah, I was actually out of town that week, so I would have been over there.
It was like walking through an oven. It was crazy. But I love Vegas. It's an amazing town, evolving like everything else.
Yes.
But you met your wife there, right?
Yeah, I'm very, very, very fortunate to have met my wife. My wife here, she's a 3-time UNLV graduate. Here at UNLV, she got her undergrad, her master's, and just got her PhD about 2 years ago. And she's a fundraiser too. So our youngest is a master negotiator when it comes to trying to get something done for herself. So she's got it honest. So my wife's the associate vice president in the UNLV Foundation, and actually she is the liaison with athletics, which is kind of interesting in the sense that we can't skirt any of the policies or any of the rules. We've got to go by the book. And if we don't, then I got to sleep with one eye open. So my development team has a strong responsibility to be the leaders on campus in fundraising, because I'm going to have to hear about it at home if they're not.
No doubt. How long have you been married now? I
just hit 10 years on May 23rd, 2025.
That's amazing. It's been so long since I've seen you. It's amazing how life just evolves. And
it does, man. I got out here. I was single when I got here, and about a year and a half in, we started dating, and quickly got married. I say quickly because one of my donors, we were at the Las Vegas Bowl out at Sam Boyd Stadium, and he looks at me and says, "When are you getting married?" I said, "I don't know, sometime next year. You got to find a venue." And he says, "Hold on." And then there was a guy from Southern Highlands Country Club, golf club, at the game, and he said, "Hey, you got any dates available in May?" Now this is December. He says, "You have any dates available in May?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, let me call and check." They called and checked. Next thing you know, I got a date for the wedding while I'm at the Las Vegas Bowl watching the game, and I'm like, "Babe, I guess we're going to plan a wedding in 6 months. So good luck."
Didn't give her much choice. I mean, they're in or I'm out at this point.
No, but it worked out great, and I've been happily married for 10 years, and looking forward to the next 10. We got 2 beautiful kids, Avery and Sydney. Sydney will actually be she's graduated just this year from high school, and she's going to be a freshman in hotel college here on campus starting in the fall. She's going to get her degree in hospitality, more on the event operations side. So really excited about her and what she wants to do. And then the youngest is more into the sports side. She wants to play basketball, volleyball, track. She keeps asking for a golf club, but she doesn't have the patience for a golf club.
I didn't. That's why I don't play golf. When I was young, I was having strokes on the course because I'm losing balls left and right.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. But the youngest is very, very competitive. The oldest is competitive too. She cooks for us, pretty much 3 times a week. So my wife and I obviously have events that don't or work until 5:36, and we get home and the meal's cooked. So
that's incredible.
It's great to have and my daughter made a peach cobbler last night or yesterday. Shoot, I went to bed with peach cobbler and ice cream. I was excited.
That's living the life right there.
Exactly. Yeah, so it was great.
It's an advantage having kids that actually can do stuff. I have dogs that they're doing it right now. They're both napping in the studio with me.
Yeah, but see, hey, Fitz, I'm in a house with 3 women, and we have a dog. But Deuce is his name, and Deuce can't do anything to help me in the house. He runs to them more than he even looks at me, and which is fine. But so I lose in my house when it comes to debates all the time.
I'll bet. I take it Deuce is a boy though.
Yes, yeah, little Shih Tzu, 11, 12 pounds. But he and I'm the one that's up with him late, because it takes me a while to decompress from a long day. And he sits there and stares at me until I go to bed. And, but it's great, man. I mean, Las Vegas is great. We got some fantastic donors, some fantastic support. And we're just trying to do what we do to make life great for these young men and women that support, that represent the Scarlet and Gray. And it's fun, it's exciting, and looking forward to the upcoming academic year, I guess I should say.
Let's take a short break and hear from our sponsor, Blueville Nursery.
For competitively priced landscape design, irrigation, and lawn maintenance, turn to Blueville Nursery, a family-owned business with more than 50 years of experience. You can trust the Blueville team to design and create a landscape that will accentuate your property's aesthetics. And visit our garden store 6 days a week for the best products in the area. From ornamental trees, shrubs, and flowers, Blueville has it all. Blueville Nursery, located on West Anderson Avenue in Manhattan, Kansas.
Now, let's return to the studio. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back to you picking Kansas State. Stan Parrish was the coach.
Mm-hmm.
Were you insane? It was so bad back then.
Yeah, and here's the thing that's interesting, Fitz. I was, back in, I was coming out of high school in 1986. We'd won 29 straight games in high school before we lost. I was a quarterback, so I didn't think that there was anything.
Hold on, you were the high school quarterback?
Yeah. I didn't think there was anything that I wouldn't be able to get done in college, and I thought I'd be at Arkansas or Oklahoma State or Texas or Texas Tech, Houston. That's where I thought I would go out of high school. But back then there wasn't early offers as early as they are this day and age, obviously.
So much.
And nobody really recruited Denison, Texas at the time. They have since. Jadarian Price is at Notre Dame. He's a Denison, Texas native. But what it was at Kansas State was they offered me an opportunity to play quarterback, and that's what I wanted to do. North Texas wanted me to play DB, and I felt like I wanted to play big time football. If I couldn't play at Oklahoma, I couldn't play because at that time North Texas was at 1AA at that time, if I remember right. If I couldn't play at Texas, I couldn't play at Oklahoma, I couldn't play at Oklahoma State. I wanted to play against them and prove to them that they were wrong in the recruiting process. So when Kansas State offered me a scholarship, believe it or not, I took it sight unseen. I signed my scholarship papers sight unseen and went to Kansas State. When I got there, they gave me, instead of the purple book that was for quarterbacks, they gave me a red book for a defensive back.
Sorry, we lied.
They didn't tell me until I got there that was going to happen. And literally I was 7th team on the depth chart at strong safety. And I was like, yeah, this ain't going to work. I said, I will not be 17 by the time we get to the first game. And I wasn't. I was second team by the time we got to the first game. But, I love every moment at Kansas State. People say, you guys lost all the time. I said, you know what? But it helped build a lot of character for a lot of guys on those teams that had to go through those struggles and those battles. I said, I did. I told my dad I wanted to leave after the first year. And he said, son, I have no money to pay for scholarships, to pay for school. You made that bed. Either you're going to sleep in it or you're going to go get a job and pay for your own school. I said, I guess I'm going back to Manhattan. So, back to Manhattan and having the opportunity to play for Bill Snyder 3 years later was amazing. Then having the opportunity to work with him and the people that I met in Manhattan. Rob Good, still Rob was in my wedding actually. And the guys that I met there that I still keep in contact with, man, I couldn't have asked for a better situation, better opportunity to grow in life than to be in Manhattan, Kansas.
I feel like I'm going to ask a former soldier about Vietnam here, but what was it that transition like when Snyder came in and absolutely put you guys through the ringer to see who really wanted to be there? It was you had a lot of guys that were very competitive. And we just wanted to have an opportunity to win and compete. And one of Bill Snyder's first messages was, you guys aren't bad players. You just never have a chance to win in the fourth quarter. You guys are so out of the game in the fourth quarter, you just have no chance. And he says, we're going to fix that. And part of fixing that is being in better shape, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And they drove that into us with Bob Cope, Bob Stoops, and those guys that Del Miller, Tom Grogan, those guys that came in and coached for Coach Snyder. That was their driving force. Let's weed out the weak and let's get the tough to hang in there. And hell, I got kicked out of practice one time by Bob Stoops. But it was his way of saying, hey, you're a senior and you have to be a leader and you have to do things a different way so that everybody else will follow you. And that was a wake up call to me. And I did things differently after that.
I wasn't, I was a different leader after that. And but what Snyder put us through, and it helped us all grow as young men. By all means, I'll never say that differently. He helped us grow as young men by putting us through the things he put us through, and he challenged us every single day to be better than we were the day before.
When you go through things like that, and I've just heard so many horror stories about 4 days. And 3 days, he would have had a dozen a days if he could have.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Before the rules kind of clamped down. But as you get older, you look back and think, oh, that sucked, but thank God.
Yeah.
Thank God I went through that. Where would I be? Who would I be without that?
Yeah, and it's funny because now when I was at Arizona, we were still, 2-a-days were still a thing when I was at Arizona. And now it's basically 1-a-days and walkthroughs and film. And you hear, a guy complain about being out on the field for 2.5 hours. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? we had what we call cat day, which was 8 hours. We had a watermelon break and a lunch break, and that was it, and these guys will complain about being out. I'm like, don't even think about it, because I'm the wrong person to complain to when it comes to that, because I did some, cat day and 3-a-days and 4 days and things like that it just becomes second nature that you go do it. And nowadays it's different. And, we've all evolved, right? And the product is still as good, and but to play against, Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders and Lydell Carr and Keith Jackson and Jamel Holloway and playing against those guys and Tony Casillas and Boz and those particular guys, you had to do things differently. And when Snyder started that and put us through those ringers, shortly thereafter, Kansas State was competing at a high level with all of those schools and beating them, and finally winning against Nebraska was awesome. And, the rest is history.
30-game winless streak. North Texas comes to town, North Texas State at the time. That had to be particularly sweet for you.
Absolutely, because there was a coach at North Texas that told me when I signed with Kansas, I told him I was going to sign with Kansas State. He said, that'll be great that you sign with a big school in February. Where will you be in 2 years? Well, in 2 years, I was all conference. So, and the Big Eight. So I got the last laugh on that. But then when we beat them, that particular game, I think that coach had actually left and gone to Tulane at that time, that assistant coach. But it was very, very sweet. And I actually have it on my wall. Funny, and it was just by coincidence, that particular day was Erick Harper Day in Denison, Texas. How about that?
That's awesome.
They came up to deliver that plaque, and it was Erick Harper Day in Denison, Texas. And just so happened we beat North Texas that day. We broke the bell because the bell hadn't been rung in so long that it was rusted and it broke up there on the deal.
Man, I forgot about the bell.
Yeah, Paul Eniges was up there ringing a bell when it broke, our center. So yeah, that was it was pretty fun, pretty remarkable day.
And looking back now, and you mentioned where the program ended up going. There's no way to define the journey to the current group of players. There's no program in a power conference that is near what Kansas State was back then. How bad it was.
No, not even close.
Nothing. No rebuild nowadays is ever going to be like that.
No, not even close. And what I want to make sure that people that listen to this that understand is it wasn't so much that we had bad players, because we didn't have bad players. We just had a bunch of guys that were really good, but we never got put in the right place to be successful. Right. The number of guys that went from one side of the ball to the other side of the ball in season was astonishing. And, guys like Tim McDonald, who, ended up playing, for the Redskins for a period. I'm not sure how long, but with the Redskins and Dana Demmel, God rest his soul, was with Minnesota. And guys, I think Troy Fonts got a shot as well. But we had guys that could play the game. We were just never put in the right position to win. And granted, we were playing against the Heisman Trophy winners and all. I am hip at Nebraska and those guys at Nebraska and places like that. But we were a bunch of really good players that just didn't get. And some people say, yeah, you could have been very good if you didn't win any game. Well, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we were good players. We just were not put in the right position to be able to win games.
Yep.
And that's unfortunate. But the bond of brotherhood that we have is amazing. But going back to what you said, Fitz, there's not a power conference school right now that is as low as we were at Kansas State at the time. But also there was no funding. The locker room flooded. Nothing when it rained. The locker room should not flood, and it was flooding from underneath. It wasn't flooding from over the top. No one should have had to go through that, but we did. But that built the character of us, of a lot of guys, right? And but to be able to see that, and I take some of that right now that I went through at Kansas State and bring it here to UNLV. And what was the thing that Steve Miller always told me, and God rest Steve. So Steve passed away a couple of weeks ago. And he was living here in Vegas, so I got a chance to spend some time with Steve. But what Steve and I talked about in his time when I was with him here in Las Vegas is you had to invest. You have to invest if you want to be good in football and basketball. You have to invest. And the investment started with Bill Snyder. And the investment started with changing the locker room. The investment started with changing how we ate. The investment started with changing in the weight room. And those are some of the things that I've tried to do here and use that blueprint to help UNLV get better in football. And I think I have I thank Barry Odom for coming here and getting us started with a great foundation, and now Dan Mullen to take it over. Really excited about that blueprint that I was able to see at Kansas State and live it to bring it here, and hopefully we can do the same things here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was – Bill Snyder deserves so much credit, but the Veneer family stepping up, there was no money. My favorite K-State football story from the olden days is Shorty Kleinow, the equipment manager, hoarding socks. Yeah. They were like gold. There was not enough socks.
We didn't have very many. Yeah. Shorty was he was one of the best. I have yet to meet an equipment person that doesn't have a nickname. I had Shorty at Kansas State. I had Big Win at Arizona, and I had Pooch here at UNLV, and now the lady that I have overseeing our equipment, her name is Tosh. So none of them, I don't know that I used their birth name with them. It's all nicknames, and I think it's fantastic. But yeah, you're right. It was hoarding socks and the things that we had to do from a financial perspective and was crazy.
One more football question. You mentioned that you wanted to be a quarterback. You ended up being on the defensive side and pretty damn good at it. When was the point that you said, oh, this was a good move? This is it. I can do this. Because quarterbacks move to safety. They have a lot of advantages being a former quarterback.
Yeah, probably it would start probably my first pick was against TCU at TCU my freshman year. And it was we were in a cover one, and I had to sink underneath the curl. I sunk underneath the curl on an option pass, and the guy threw it to me like I was a receiver. But the bigger part was the pick against KU my freshman year. Scored a touchdown, and then. So getting 3 picks my freshman year, one of which was a touchdown against the Jayhawks, told me that I could play the game on defense. And I don't know if you remember, we were going to put in a short yardage offense, and Stan Parrish put me at quarterback for the short yardage offense in the spring, running a wishbone. And then, unfortunately, I scored in practice on about a 70-yard run with the wishbone. And he's like, well, we better make sure we got defense covered first before we try to do this. So I didn't play quarterback again for the rest of spring ball. And unfortunately, didn't get a chance to play in the fall either. But I did. I was the Gordy Lockbaum of spring ball at Kansas State for 1 year.
Nice. How long has it been since you've been back to Manhattan?
Oh, shoot. The last time I was in Manhattan would have been probably 2007, maybe 8. I came back to play in a member guest golf tournament at Manhattan Country Club with Doug Abel. Mm-hmm. And I've tried to get back multiple times for the No Stone Unturned golf tournament, but it's always about the time that going on family vacation, and it's when my mom was alive, it was when I got a break here, I always went to Texas to spend time with her, and then since her passing in February of 20, I haven't. I spend a lot of time with just my kids and my wife, and staying put, and then I go back. I wanted to get back last year. I was going to be back last year, Fitz, because we got scheduled to play KU on a Friday night, and I don't know if it was within a week or a few days. K-State gets put on Friday night versus Arizona, and obviously and originally that Arizona game was on a Saturday. So I was going to be able to go play KU from here in UNLV, and then go over to Manhattan and see the Cats play. And didn't happen, but that was going to be my first time back in 15, 16 years. And but I can promise you this: I was the happiest guy in the state of Kansas that day because we beat KU, and my Wildcats beat Arizona. So I was definitely the happiest guy in the state of Kansas.
That hit on a lot of notes for you. You were at Arizona. You were playing against KU.
How about that? No, can't write that story. Can't make that up.
That's pretty cool. How important what's the question here that I'm trying to compose? How important is the process of fundraising, keeping facilities up, to go along with that money that is now going to student athletes? It's got to be almost an impossible Rubik's Cube to figure out. It's still,
as I was talking to an AD yesterday, we've been cooking the soup one way, and now we've got to cook it a different way. And that's part of the innovation and creativity that we have to do to generate revenues. And how are we going to generate those revenues? Is a lot through loyalty and through, again, there's two things that have never changed in the history of fundraising, and that's people give to people and people give to causes. Sometimes people have to be bigger than the cause, and sometimes the cause has to be bigger than the people. And that is something I learned from Ernie Barrett back in the day, and one of the best fundraisers in the history of fundraising. But that is, in building those relationships and building that trust. And now that's the fundamental part. The other part, is how and what can we do from a stewardship perspective that makes people, like I have a donor here that when I first met him, he was doing, roughly, with ticket purchase and all, he was roughly doing about $10,000 a year. Well, in the last 2 years, and this is 13 years later, within the last 2 years, he's given us over $3 million. Wow. But that's 13 years of building that relationship. And that's 13 years of, and he's not even remotely close to high maintenance. And he turns down more invitations than he accepts. But that's someone that I think that's a way and a manner with which I work to generate revenues is building those relationships. The way Ernie Barrett taught me how to do it.
Been to some great people during this podcast, just amazing people. I hate getting older because we see them pass on.
Yeah.
Ernie's gone, Steve Miller's gone, but Dana Dimmel just absolutely crushed me.
Yeah, I saw Dana. We played against Dana a couple years ago when he was at UTEP, and I worked with Dana at Arizona, of course. So, yeah, you're right, Fitz, and we have to cherish every moment that we have, and I think sometimes we forget that. But the people that we were able to, you obviously included at Kansas State there, the number of people and the type of people that we were able to build relationships and get to know is, it's just remarkable what Kansas State has done for so many of us over the years.
Hire good people, give them what they need to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bill Snyder, I tell people, Bill Snyder had, when he started at Kansas State, it was 13 rules to success. And I say, you know what? It's about consistency because he only added 3 over the next 30 plus years. He only added 3 to it. So it's about that consistency in what you do every day that builds that trust and that belief and the confidence that everybody has the right person.
Let's wrap it up here because I'm not a big fan of college realignment, but I do enjoy covering it. It's gotten to the point of being absurd at this point. I mean, we got Oregon and Washington in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? What is UNLV's future? There's going to be a new Pac-12. The Big 12 will probably go again and get some more teams. What are your thoughts?
And I got to tell everybody, and whether it's internally or externally, the important thing for UNLV is to take care of home, be the best possible UNLV that we can be. Nobody knows what's going to happen in realignment. Nobody knows. I mean, somebody can sit here and say they got a crystal ball and they know who's going to go where, when, where, and how, and they're full of crap. But the most important thing for UNLV is to do the best things for UNLV at the very moment in time, with always looking at, the future. Okay, where do we need to be financially in the next 2 years? Where do we need to be financially in the next 5 years? What is that pro forma? What does that look like from an expense perspective? Let's pay attention to what's going on the expense side. How far are we going to travel? Look at every, consistently looking at the whole global picture of what we need to do. So where will UNLV be? We will be exactly where we're supposed to be based on what we do as a department, as an institution. That's where we will be. If we don't try to be in a growth mindset, we're in the old days when I told somebody just the other day, Kansas State, if we had not invested, if we had not had a growth mindset with Steve Miller and John Weefall, if there had not been a growth mindset, Kansas State would have been in the Missouri Valley. No disrespect to anyone in the Missouri Valley Conference, but that's where Kansas State would have gone or would have dropped football. Yep. And that would have been devastating to the institution. And again, no disrespect to the Missouri Valley Conference because there's wonderful programs there. But UNLV, it is extremely important that we be the best possible UNLV that we can be, and that comes with being a great community partner with the resort corridor, with the MGMs, the Caesars, the Resorts Worlds, the Blue Fountains, all those different properties that we have. The Fertitta family that's off the Strip, the Boyd family that's off the Strip. Those are the stalwarts of Las Vegas and the shepherds of Las Vegas, along with a lot of other people. But if we building and continuing and strengthening those relationships with those individuals and those organizations, those companies will have UNLV being the best possible UNLV that we can be. And wherever the chips fall, they fall. But I think it's as the athletic director, it's my responsibility to make sure that we're doing every single thing possible to be the best that we can possibly be. And none of us control anything when it comes to realignment. So just be the best that you can be, and you go from there.
Well, I probably would imagine if Kansas State hadn't turned the ship, they wouldn't have been invited into the Big 12. That wouldn't have been an all Big 8 with 4 schools from Texas. They would have probably left them out.
Yeah,
and it's hard to blame them. But then again, John Weefald was a big driver in forming the Big 12. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's that growth mindset that you have to have. You got to make sure you got a seat at the table. And if you don't have a seat at the table, or if you're not the chef or the sous chef, you don't get an opportunity to cook that soup. So you've got to be in that growth mindset, and we have that here at UNLV. I mean, I definitely have it. My staff has it. Our president has it. To be in growth mindset. I mean, we're at 32,000 students. When I arrived here, I want to say we were probably at 25 or so. Now we're at 32 and growing.
That's rare.
So I think that we're one of the few institutions that's that has an increase in enrollment. And we're excited about that. And, obviously my daughter is now going to contribute to that increase by 1. And my youngest wants to go to UNLV as well. So I think that's that. So we'll be the best possible UNLV that we can possibly be. And wherever the chips fall, they fall.
Well, without Luke Fickell, Cincinnati's probably not in the Big 12. Without Scott Frost, UCF's probably not in the Big 12. You got to be in the right spot at the right time to get an invite. And
yeah,
I'm a big Dan Mullen fan. I think that was a great hire. So
yeah, thank you. And when if the call comes, you better be ready to answer the phone.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I've campaigned pretty hard for UNLV. It has nothing to do with you or the football program. I just want to go to Vegas for work.
Hey, come on! It's a great place. We're the 40th media market, and one of the I think one of only 2 that's not in an A4 conference. So it's
crazy.
A lot of growth here in Las Vegas. The A's just broke ground, official groundbreaking the other day. You got the Raiders, you got the Aces, you got the Golden Knights, Aviators minor league, and UFC, and we got a world championship boxing match coming here in September with Crawford and Canelo. And we, this city, the history of the building I'm in right now, the Thomas Mack Center, who held some Ali fights and some Frazier fights and Holyfield fights. And those things that have come through this particular historic building here is magnificent. And again, we're going to make sure that UNLV is the best we can possibly be. And wherever the chips fall, they fall. But I have a responsibility and a duty to make sure our student athletes have a fantastic experience. And if that's and in some cases you never know what that experience is. Some is financial, some is just I want to get a great degree so I can go out and get a great job. And the Strip, the Las Vegas Strip has great opportunities for engineers, accountants, architectural, all those different things, hospitality. It's not just about dealing cards and dice and being the slot manager over there. It's about owning those properties, having a 5-star hotel, having a 5-star restaurant, having 5-star shows that you can direct and promote, and heck, even be a strength coach for some of those shows, and an athletic trainer for some of those shows, because some of them are very, very athletic based. So I think we have a lot of unique things here at UNLV, and we have 3 professional schools, and in the dental school, the med school, and law school. I have 3 professional schools here with engineering that we bring a lot to the table. But we're just going to be the best UNLV we can possibly be and see what happens from there.
Harp, great to see you, man.
Great to see you, Fitz, man. It's been a great time talking to you.
And let me know when you're back in town. We'll meet at So Long and have a beer, but probably just one because I'm kind of a lightweight now.
Hey, I can tell you right now, you started out this with that So Long Saloon, and I cannot get the resist temptation out of my mind at all. I might have to call Rob and see if he can dry ice me one out here from So Long Saloon. So
love it. Harp, stay in touch, man.
All right, my man. Be good, Fitz. Take care.
Okay, the spinning shoe thing, he explained it in the start of the show to me before we were recording. They had a sports thing, and it's got all the Las Vegas logos on it for the sports teams, and it was given as a gift. It's got magnets that help it spin. It's pretty cool. But man, that was great. It was great catching up with Harp. And it's amazing, sometimes when you have been somewhere and you leave. And I was surprised to hear he hadn't been back in Manhattan, Kansas for more than 15 years. But time does move. Boy, it moves fast. And before you know it, we'll have another edition of Life of Fitz waiting for you. I'm going to be recording a bunch of these in a few days to get us through some events, Big 12 Media Days, and a short vacation for the Fitzgeralds this summer. But I'll continue these conversations. I got a really cool guest, another athletic director, for next week. Hope it doesn't fall through now that I made that promise. Talk to you real soon, everyone. We appreciate you watching. But guys, if you're 65, you're 55, you're 45, you better have a PSA score in your history. Get that baseline score. And if you haven't had one and you're 55 and older, well, you've got to have one. I was diagnosed at 53. And if I had waited to 55 to find out, I wouldn't be doing this show. Glad I am. Talk to you soon, everyone. I appreciate you listening to this week's edition of Life of Fitz. And thank you to all the great people at Blueville Nursery for sponsoring our show. This has been a Spirit Street production.